Well, hey everyone. Today is December 27th, and we are very excited to have Esteban again on this
Guys,
podcast today. So let's talk about our state of the economic, uh, state of the economy, global economy, and so yeah, we can get back to all different aspects and all different countries that are being affected by the global economy. And thanks to Esteban for joining again. So yeah, this podcast is provided by Richie AI, and we're happy to cover and with expertise of Esteban. And yeah, we'll try to cover most of the interesting topics. But I mean, the main topic that we wanted to cover, Esteban, um, is from Argentina, and everyone knows what's happening in Argentina and how it's being affected and how this new economic policies are being implemented in Argentina with the uh, election of the new president. So here's the question for you: do you think this is a real big turn, or more of like a circus? And
no,
that's
I
going to
think
be
that
my question.
really a real big turn. This guy is making some decisions that could really change the country. But the question that everybody is asking is, I mean, is this sustainable, right? I mean, can this guy keep with this with all these decisions through or a long time, right? Because most of these decisions affect seriously the middle class, right? So um, inflation will grow exponentially during the following months. That's for sure. We are talking about more or less between 20 and 30% of monthly inflation. So that's per month. So we are really close to the 50% that it's the the number that most economists say that it's hyperinflation. So we are really close to hyperinflation, and and I mean prices will go up. So and most probably is that salaries will not go up that way, right? So now in Argentina we have like one third of the working class is poor, right? So in Argentina you can have a job and still be poor. So it's one third of the working class, and the problem with these decisions is that will probably increase poverty within middle class. So in the long term, if this guy, if Milei, the president, can hold there, can hold in the measure, in the decisions, and can and people is willing to support or to back up their president despite the loss of the purchase power, in the long term, this could turn out well. In the short term, it's going to be really, really hard for people. So, and also for companies. I mean, the people will have less money to spend, so sales will drop all across the country, all across all the different products. I mean, everything's going to fall. Um, So I mean, the problem or the question here is going to, is people going to support? Is people going to be able to survive to this process? If the answer is yes, then Argentina is going to a deep change and probably a bright future. If the answer is no, we could have very um, very severe issues in terms of social protest and that for the next months, right? So um, that's the question, right? I mean, are we going to be able to keep up with this? I mean, that's the question here.
Actually, let's step back. So I think we kind of went too far ahead, just discussing what's gonna be, what are gonna be the consequences of the situation. But let's actually discuss what actually he did. It's been 2 weeks,
Okay,
so
he did during these 2 weeks. He did like three things. First one, he devaluated our currency like 118%, something like that. So the US dollar went from something around 350 or 360 pesos to 820 pesos in one day. So that was the first one. The second decision was to, contrary to what everybody thinks, that is to reduce inflation. He decided to lower the interest rates. That has a reason, and it's that he wants to avoid the central bank to taking more loans from investment banks mainly. So he lowered the interest rates of the central bank bills, that it's the like your T-bills, right? That here is called the leaks, and he raised the interest rates of some long-term bonds that the government is going to issue. So what he's trying to do is to take short-term debt and take it to a long-term debt, right? So that was the second big decision, and the third one was the most conflicted one. He decided to modify like 366 laws just with a presidential decree. I don't know if you have that tool there in the US, but here, if the president considers that a law must be changed for an urgent matter, he can do it. He can change a law without the Congress approval on a first step. That gets implemented immediately, and then the Congress can reject that if they consider that must be rejected. But so what he did was to modify 366 laws with one presidential decree. Mainly those laws tend, or those modifications tend to deregularize the economy, right? So lots of regulations related to commerce, prices, land, rental contracts. I mean, also labor laws, labor rules. So several rules and laws were totally deregulated in an attempt to deregulate the economy and create like a better investment environment. I'm saying that this one was the most controversial one, since there are some people that thinks that what he did was like illegal, and that there are some laws that were, he modified using this decree, but it was not legal to do it. So now it's a big discussion in Argentina around this decree, if it was legal or not. The problem with this is if this decree goes on and passes through this discussion, everything will, I think that on the long term, everything will go well. If this gets rejected, it will be like a huge punch against the government, right? It will be like a huge loss, and that could result in mainly the market losing faith on him, because he cannot pass just a few laws. So I think that what happens in the next days in Argentina with these presidential decrees will be key to the future of our country. So those were the main three decisions, and he did that in just 15 days. And that's the most amazing part of all this, right? Because he did all that just in 15 days. And the aim of all this is to reduce 5.2, I think that was 5.2% of the GDP in terms of expenses, right? So the government expenses, to reduce them in a proportion of a 5.2% of the Argentinian GDP. So, and it's a huge expense cut. So so those were the measures, and as I told you, all this will when he devaluated the currency, there are lots of goods here in Argentina that are really attached to dollar value, right? For example, oil, energy, imported products, products that are made in Argentina with imported parts. So that ended up in a huge increment on the prices of all these products. For example, oil, gas went like up on a 50%. I think that in 1 week and a half went up the price of gasoline, 50%. And for example, we are expecting that the utilities in Argentina in January will go up between 300% and 700% within 1 month, a monthly increase. So, I mean, prices, if you deregulate prices, that's what happened, right? So, I mean, that's why I'm saying that on the long term, all these like liberal ideas will bring Argentina prosperity from my perspective. On the short term, I don't know if people will be able to bear with it. I mean, to survive, and that will end up in social protest. And I mean, we'll see what happens with the government if that happens, right?
That's super interesting. So he is acting on
I
what he
can't hear you,
promised.
Armek. Sorry, there.
Yeah. So he is definitely acting on his promises, some of them.
Yeah.
But people did not. Well, general public could not predict it, or experts couldn't predict whether he was going to act very ideologically or more of a kind of a middle, like a centric approach, more of like a scientific approach to things. So do you think he's acting more ideologically right now or more scientifically?
I think that in some aspects he's been still too ideological. For example, within all these deregulations, he deregulated some things that didn't make any sense. I mean, a presidential decree must be used only in case of emergencies, and some of the laws he modified were just not emergencies. It was just his ideology being put in a presidential decree, right? Some of the things that he deregulated could easily be discussed in the Congress as a law must be, right? Could easily be discussed in the Congress and decided in the Congress as it should be. So I think that in some things he's being too ideological, but in some others he's being really pragmatic. So I think it's a bit and a bit. I do think anyway that he's going on the right way. I mean, again, the problem is not the way we are going. The problem is the road. I mean, the path that we must go through to get to that future, right? Because I mean, we are all going to go through very bad times in Argentina during the next month. So if we survive that, I think that if we can survive the next a year and a half or 2 years, Argentina could be finally going out of this or improving from this like 10 or 12 years of economic decrease. But 2 years is a lot of time. I mean, if you think about it, 2 years with high inflation, with prices going crazy, with it's a lot of time. So I think that's the problem.
Yeah, that's like some pills will actually have really bad side effects, and this is what it is. But it's needed.
Yeah.
But it's also the side effects are so strong that you don't even know if you should take those specific pills or not, and that's basically what's happening.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
And in terms of like being actually able to implement those challenges, does he have any support in the Congress? Or will he have any? Was he able to kind of get along with the central right parties within the Argentina's parliament? Do you think he has some support in the Congress, or he's more of like a lone wolf kind of?
Yeah, I think that he doesn't have the support he needs, and that's why he did this presidential decree, right? I think that he doesn't have the support he needs in the Congress. I guess that, and this is just a guess, but I guess that he's betting to people's support, right? He's trying to see if people back him up, so that people in so that the public is the one that end up pressuring the Congress for approvals for further laws, right? So if he now receive a huge support from people, well, then the Congress will have to support his decisions, right? Unless they are too crazy. But in general, the Congress will have to support his decisions. So I think that he's betting on that. He's betting on his political image, and that's it. Because I don't think he does have the approval of the Congress, or the support he needs. If you count like the congressman, and you count them one by one, he does not have enough congressmen in his party or his allies to pass through controversial laws. And I think that is the reason for this presidential decree.
Gotcha. And and then let's wrap that Argentina topic with one question. Do you think, like, what do you expect from this in 2024? And are you bullish? Are you
2024
bearish?
2024 will be probably the hardest year for Argentina since I remember. I don't think that we will ever. I mean, I don't think that at least. I mean, I have like I went to live alone in the year 2000, right? So I started being conscious of the economy on that years, right? So in my 23 years being conscious of the economical situation, I think that 2024 will be the worst, for sure. Will be the worst. It will be really, really hard. So, but again, if I think that if we as a society manage to go through it, to survive and to support this process, maybe 2025, like late 2025, will start showing some growth, some improvement, and 2026 could be a great year for Argentina if we manage to support all this.
Great point. So yeah, let's see. Everyone is watching. Everyone is looking into what's happening. So yeah, everyone is waiting. And let's see how these things play out for Argentina. But hopefully
Totally.
this is gonna be for the better.
Yeah, and
Next
also
topic. Go ahead.
one point to wrap up. One important point of this is markets, right? It's financial markets, because I mean if financial markets stop trusting him, they will take all their money and convert it to dollars and move out of the country, because now they can, as everything is deregulated, now they can just take the dollars wherever they want and with no consequences. So if they do that, we will have like a hyper devaluation of the Argentinian peso, and that will lead to hyperinflation. So not only people is important, and people trusting Javier Milei, but it's also the market trusting him, right? I think that's also interesting.
Anything with the financial markets? I mean, Argentina had defaulted so many times in the past, like
Up to now,
decades.
financial markets have reacted well. I mean, he's taking very liberal decisions, right? So financial markets will always react well to liberal ideas. The problem is that if he's not able to implement them, either because the Congress rejects everything, or because the people rejects everything. Well, I mean, if he's not able to implement them, financial markets will stop believing in him and will take the money out of the country, for sure.
Right. That being said, let's actually go back to the other side of the Americas. Let's go to the North America's market. Well, the what happened recently, there was no change in the interest rate. Uh, so the US economy, everyone is predicting that the US economy is doing fine or just fine. And when you compare it with, let's say, what's happening in Europe. So yeah, any feedback or any thoughts on that? What do you think?
Um, I think that we are now on the officially on the second phase of the pivot, right? The pivot has like three phases. The first one is when you stabilize it, or when you decrease the increases in the rate. So when you start increasing on a lower percentage, that's the first phase of the pivot. The second phase is when you stabilize the interest rate, and the third phase is when you reduce the interest rates. So I think that now we are officially on the second phase of the pivot. Everyone was expecting, mainly because Jerome Powell said that there would be one more increase in the interest rates. I think that we won't see that increase. I don't think it's necessary, even because inflation is being reduced. I mean, the economy is hanging in there. Um, uh, so I mean, I think that we are officially like in the second phase of the pivot. So and we will probably go through some month in 2024 with this interest rate, right? So it will remain like this for several months, like maybe until April, May, June, July, and then if inflation keeps on going down, it will be we will move to the third phase of the pivot, right? So, in terms of if the worst has already happened, I don't know, because it all depends on how long is this second phase of the pivot, right? Because we are still on a high interest rates environment, right? Uh, Rates are really high now, so and if the rates keep too high for too long, it could lead the US to a recession. So I don't know if we have gone through the worst of the crisis yet. We are like, I think that like in the eye of the hurricane, the middle of the crisis. So I think that now we are like in an impasse, right, where
Yeah.
everything seems to be stabilized. But I mean, it will all depend on how long does this second phase last, right? So if the second phase is short, then we will see a turnover to the third phase in a few months, and that will be officially like the end of the inflation crisis. If not, if it lasts too long, we could see the US falling into recession. I mean, I don't think that recession scenario must be discarded right now. It's less probable, maybe yes. I mean, some months ago I was more like pessimist about the US situation. Now I think that the probability of a recession has reduced a little bit, but I wouldn't take the recession scenario out yet. I think that we must see the last phase of the pivot before we can say, okay, the economy just the soft landing worked, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a matter of time now.
And what I kind of saw is that most of the economists kind of agree that the reason why U.S. economy is not doing as bad is because they were able to kind of get cash out of like European Union in some sense, so they were able to actually get capital out of there by having uh, like letting European Union struggle in their own uh, economic problems. And it seems like in this global thing that's happening today, or the global economy, the biggest loser now is the European Union. It is
Definitely, definitely.
Germany.
Europe is going through a deep crisis. Um, I don't know if I don't know if any country, European country, has officially declared recession yet. I don't recall that, but for sure it will happen. I think that in Europe, for sure, more than one country will sooner or later declare a recession. Um, yeah, I think that European countries are paying for American crisis, and yeah, definitely. Also because European countries work like they all depend on Germany right now, right? Because on Germany and on a less proportion on France, but mainly on Germany. The UK went out of the European Union, so now they are on their own. Um, and and I mean, if you look at the rest of the GDP of Europe, it's mostly Germany. So if Germany goes into recession, um, it's hard to think that the rest of the countries will not go into recession, right? If it's the same like happens with, I don't know, Mexico and the US, right? If US goes into recession, Mexico will probably go into recession, right? Because they produce everything that Americans consume. So I think that in Europe is something similar. The largest economy is Germany. So if Germany goes into recession, you will likely see other countries going into recession too, just like
Yeah.
a contagion effect.
And just as if that wasn't enough, they have this Yemeni crisis now with oil, and
Yeah, and also Yemen is like one of the largest producers of oil. In Yemen, I think that it was like, I don't recall the exact number, but I think that it was like 50% of Yemen exports are oil. So it's an oil dependent economy.
yeah,
So now you have Russia in a war, an oil producer, and now you will have Yemen, another major oil producer, going into a crisis. Um, so yeah, and the problem with oil is that when oil goes up, everything goes up. When oil prices goes up in the world, everything will goes up, right? So
yeah.
energy, uh, gas, everything will go up.
And
So yeah,
yeah, like oil tankers now have to go all the way around Africa just to get to Germany.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
insane, because it basically means it's like, okay, so now in order for Germany, let's say, to get Qatari gas, it has to go all the way like in the 15th century, even before
yeah,
Columbus, like it has to go all the way
yes.
through Africa, like, and
Yes,
that's insane.
and that increments a lot the production of energy, the cost of production of energy, the cost of gas, the cost of oil. And the problem with that is that it impacts on all the economy. This will bring more inflation to Germany in a context where Germany is trying to bring down inflation, and it's fighting for that. So and bringing down inflation for Germany is costing will cause a recession, right? Um, so if prices goes up, and inflation goes up, it's like putting more gasoline to the fire. It's like you're
Yeah.
feeding the fire. So yeah, it's a worst case scenario. The worst that could happen to Germany now is to have their cost of oil and gas going up. So yeah.
Even higher than it already is because of the
Yeah, even higher
pipeline,
than
the
it
Russian
already is.
pipeline.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Yeah. Sounds like European Union is not going to be in good shape in
No,
2024.
no, I think that they are taking like the worst of the crisis. When we say the worst of the crisis is in relative terms, right? Africa will always be worst, or like South Asian countries will always be worse. But in terms of the largest economies, European countries are taking like the worst of the crisis for sure. The
Wow.
combination of war, oil and gas prices, pandemic, inflation post-pandemic, USA taking all the money from them. So all that combination of facts is, it's really destroying the European economies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that being said, why don't we kind of wrap up today's conversation with talking about predictions? Like, what do you think is going to happen in 2023? 2024. Like, what happened in 2023 in global economy? What do you think we should expect in 2024? Uh,
I think that
Separately and overall. But
2024 will depend a lot on what happens with the US pivot. I think that that's a key, the key indicator of 2024. I mean, the world economy is in Jerome Powell's hands, right? So, and depending on how long is the second phase of the pivot, we could see a recession in the US or not. And as always, a recession in the US will bring a recession for the rest of the world for sure. So I think that the key for 2024 is that, I mean, if Jerome Powell manages to lower inflation and reduce and start the third phase of the pivot during the first half of the year, maybe we would be in a safe place for the US economy. And I mean, despite that, the fact that Europe will keep on fighting with some challenges, if the US economy, I mean, if a recession is discarded for the US economy, a recession scenario, everything will go better than if we have a recession in the US. So I think that's the main indicator for the world to look at now. Obviously, China again. No, you can never trust Chinese numbers, but China is saying that everything is okay in their country. So I mean, if you trust the Chinese, then okay, we don't have to worry about that. If you don't trust the numbers that they publish, then that's also a threat, right? Because if China goes into recession, again, the world will go into recession. So I think that's another important thing to look at. And as always, like conflicts like in Yemen or Ukraine or now in Gaza, those are always bad news for the world, right? Except for the people that produce guns and armament, the rest of the world is always bad news, right? So I think that this is more like a personal desire than a projection, but I really wish that 2024 bring more peace to the world, right? So that all these conflicts can come up to an end with pacific solutions. If that happens, not only, I mean, we will avoid thousands of people dying. That's obviously the worst part of all this, but I'm sure that the economy will recover faster in the world if all these conflicts end up and all these countries can reach to agreements. That will be really quite a positive indicator for the world. So I think that's the thing that we must look at on 2024, right? So conflicts, pivot phase in the US and Chinese numbers are the things to look at in 2024.
Yeah. On that note, well, I guess we will end today's podcast. We'll try to keep it short, but yeah, I mean, hopefully everything is going to be good. So to wrap everything up, as I understood, yeah, we're looking into the U.S. economy for 2024, and it's actually going to predict what's going to happen with the rest of the world. And we will see if wars are going to continue, or if they will have some peaceful time, yeah, on the planet. Well,
Yeah,
thank you,
totally.
Esteban, for your time. Hopefully, Argentina is going to have a good year too. I mean, hopefully those.
I mean, yeah, we will have a very bad year with the hope of having a really great future. I think that's the game here, right? So we are hoping, we are having a really bad year. It's like when you are on a diet, right? So you try to lose weight, so you start eating less and you start to eating like boring food, but your hope is that eating that boring food will bring a better future for you. So this is the same, right? So we are like on a diet, we are going through very bad times, but hoping that this can bring us a better future.
Argentina was a very promising country like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like the most promising.
Totally.
So totally, let's see. Yeah. Maybe that's what's needed. So finally.
Maybe, yes.
Maybe, all right. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Esteban, for your time.
Thank you, and have a nice year. And thank you for inviting me for all these podcasts during this year. See you next year.
Absolutely. See you next year. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. See you.